Whenever I try to review or criticize a certain project or fiction, I really try to go a little bit above than other YouTubers. Log this under extremely strange and weird because there's no easy way to describe this. This is She-Wolf of London or Love and Curses. It went through a couple of title changes, so depending on how you saw this, I'm not sure what it would be under titled, but essentially what is this? Well, it's as the name implies, it's about a female werewolf in the United Kingdom, although later it transports to Hollywood. Yeah, don't ask, it's a very, very weird series. So what's the basics thing? Well, essentially, Randi Wallace is a student who gets bitten by a werewolf, and she's being helped by a mythology professor, and they basically try to find a cure for her lycanthropy, and they have, of course, these weird adventures and encounters with the occult and other things along the way. What I appreciated about She-Wolf on several levels, it's not just about the werewolf transformation. Of course, that's going to be the central focus and a lot of cause for drama. But they actually just had episodes where she's normal and she does not turn into a werewolf. It's not about her being a werewolf. It's just they have these mysteries or these incidents and they have to do something about it. And even way before Buffy the Vampire Slayer, this is such a weird series combining elements of irony and drama and has a female character who's tied to the supernatural. But there are various reasons, of course, you can see why it didn't have the same impact or same popularity. It didn't really catch on with audiences, though I liked it a lot growing up. It was really, really fun and engaging and surprisingly scary, even though it's mostly silly. When it does become, quote, very invested in horror, it is very scary and it has a huge body count. So don't watch this if you have a weak stomach because there are some scenes that are very well done in terms of horror. But it is mainly a very weird mashup of romance, comedy, and drama, and it's a little bit all over the place. Like the first couple episodes are focused on England and the political and social culture there. And again, I'm not British, so I didn't get a lot of the humor. For instance, I was a little confused as to how or why are Ian and Randy living together because I'm a little confused because in America, that's very rare, but in Britain, it's very normal for entire families to be in the same residence. And it's very odd, actually, to have a daughter or son having their own place because they're just rent is too expensive, so they have to live together. So I found that strange in terms of how they have a lot of kind of sexual humor about Ian and Randy wanting to be romantic, but it's really weird because the parents are there. But it's like, apparently that's very normal in the United Kingdom, so I was not clear as to why that's a joke. There are other things that they play with in terms of the cultural differences between the two, right? Randy's, of course, much more forward, and Ian is much more stuck up and has trouble articulating himself. And then, for whatever reason, they just change the entire series and they move out to California, where Ian is a talk show host. And it gets just stranger and stranger along the way. So, if you're into postmodernism and do like things that are ironic, along the lines of Wes Craven's Scream, this will be definitely for you. It's nowhere as well done or as sophisticated. It doesn't have any deep messages involved. It's just a straightforward, weird mix of comedy and horror. But I have to say, I really like the dedication to the mythology, even if the myths themselves don't make a lot of sense in terms of how the werewolf legend works, why it works with her, etc., etc. Of course, her powers, the limits of her powers. That's not really well said. And it is thriving mainly on the charisma of the cast because the scripts are very erratic. I can't say there are many bad episodes, but I can't even say there's many good episodes. It's very, very erratic depending on what episode you watch, and it's only one season, so you can get through this fairly quickly. And even the theme music is a little bit confused and all over the place. I like the United Kingdom soundtrack myself, but other people prefer the United States soundtrack with the sax. It'll be up to you. Apparently, if you actually get this on DVD, it's a little bit all over the place what they place where. So it's got a very erratic tone, very erratic scripts. Nevertheless, at the end of the day, I really did find this very, very enjoyable. And just going back to it, I can just put a smile on my face. It's really, really fun and really well done. Again, within its own parameters, it's a very enjoyable horror comedy series. I wish we had a little bit more in terms of the substance of episodes, but again, you can tell they were setting things up, but then it was this, they just pulled the plug prematurely, so it's unclear where they were going to go with it. I wish they spent a little bit more time in England because I found those adventures very fascinating in terms of them meeting these more kind of ancient monsters and having to cope with that, but it is what it is. So overall, it's a very strong series. Again, I can't give it a really strong grade. It's really, if you're going to be into it, you're going to get it and like it. But if you're not into it, yeah, you'll be kind of puzzled why it still has a cult following because it is small, but they are thriving. So it's an interesting mix, especially with things like Angel, Buffy, Scream during the 1990s, and why this, of all things, didn't really get the audience it probably should have. But I highly recommend it, and it's basically available everywhere. You can just look the episodes up online, just Google it, and they'll come to you right away. If you want a better version of it, of course, you can pay for it on DVD. But yeah, you probably want to preview a few episodes whether you really want to step in and pay for full price, because it is very strange and very all over the place. But it's definitely something to remember, and I think remember fondly. She Wolf of London, highly recommended. Thank you for listening.